Welcome back. We are weighing in today about food allergies, pretty severe food allergies in some cases. Joining me today for our weigh-in segment is Nathan Drendel.
Yep.
I said it right. I wanted to say Drendel, but I was wrong. Registered dietitian for ProMedica. Is that right?
Yep.
And of course, you met her in the package just a minute ago. Mom, certified dog handler, all that kind of stuff. But Jamie Johns, your daughter has a severe peanut allergy.
She does. She does.
Okay, so the first question really is for you, the dietitian. You know, we're doing this show, and I said some statistics. 12 million Americans is a pretty significant amount. 1 in 25 kind of families are dealing with this.
Right.
In your practice, what are you seeing in terms of food allergies?
The food allergies, luckily, as you mentioned, we have the top 8 that are about 90% of all food allergies. But anything with a protein can elicit an allergy reaction. So luckily from a dietitian standpoint, luckily a lot of those foods aren't real high up on the nutritional ladder. So we don't have to rely on them. The beefs, the chicken, the things that really are concentrated protein sources aren't major allergen producers. So, but the peanut allergies, which you notice, you flip over our label and there are mentions of made in a factory with peanuts, so they're everywhere. So you have to really watch out. From a medical standpoint, we have the peanuts, the dairy, and a lot of times you run into issues with that too, because you have people that believe they have an allergy when it might be a food intolerance, which is totally different. So, but a peanut allergy that your daughter has, that is something a lot more severe than an intolerance. So.
Do you see mostly peanut allergies in your work?
It depends. It's overall, it's a broad spectrum of what type of allergies. Shellfish is a higher potency or a higher consistency of a allergen, but usually the peanuts, the milk, those are all roughly around the same amount in terms of population-wise.
And for you, it's the peanut allergy. And when people say, oh, so just don't have peanuts, what's the big deal? Talk about, I mean, number one, it's not like I don't, you know, if I have a pizza at 8 o'clock at night, it doesn't agree with me versus what you've got going. This is not, like he said, a food intolerance. It's an allergy. It is life or death for your daughter.
I really wish it was this as simple as just don't have peanuts. I mean, that's the basics of it. I mean, that's the obvious part of it. But then there's all, the difference is peanuts contain that protein that he talked about. And the protein is found in the oil and in the dust. And that is, it's not a bacteria, it's not a germ. You can't kill it with hand sanitizer. It has to be removed. It has to be wiped with a cloth and then wiped again with a clean cloth to remove it properly. And so the idea of my child not eating peanuts next to your child who is eating peanuts, well, that's great. That's an effort to keep her safe by not letting her eat the peanuts. But then when your child is done eating their peanut butter sandwich and then they play patty cake with my child, well, that residue is still on their hands and can cause a reaction. You're
talking about I mean, back in the day when my kids were little, I got a letter from school that said, you know, so-and-so in the classroom, in the kindergarten, in the first grade, has this list of allergies. And it was not just peanuts. It was just name it, and it was on this list. And it was very frightening, and you became, you know, so worried that you would accidentally pack something. I had a kid that didn't eat anything, so he liked like 2 things. If those 2 things are on the list, you know, he can't take those things. So how do you know, she's 3.
Right.
How do you move from preschool where you're pretty protected to, I mean, what's the plan?
Well, we're kind of still up in the air with that. We have the service dog, which that's always an option for her to take the dog to school with her. She still has another year of preschool to go. She won't start kindergarten until the fall of 2013. So we're still in the process of deciding how we'll handle that. And it's one of those things that we really can't make that decision until the time gets closer.
What's the biggest misconception that you have with people when you tell them, my daughter can't have peanuts, she has a peanut allergy? What do you hear from people, or, you know, the dumb things we say? Including me.
The biggest misconception is that it's not as serious as I make it out to be.
You're just overreacting.
Right.
What happened when she had peanuts that time in the story?
She was 13 months old and she ate just a 13-month-old size bite of a peanut butter cookie. And long story short, within 20 minutes we were in the ER.
Face swelling, can't
breathe, eyelids inside out because her face had swollen so bad, vomiting and uncontrollable mucus coming from everywhere. She's scratching and pulling in her throat. Of course, she's screaming.
Because it hurts.
Right. And it was just not
It was
something
not
that
good.
I ever want to experience again.
And and that was it. You've been so vigilant since then.
She's had a couple of minor,
knock on wood.
yes,
I always knock on wood.
a couple of minor contact reactions that we can't even confirm where the residue came from, that did not require more than Benadryl at home. And thankfully, again, knock on wood, she's never been injected with epi.
So you haven't had to
We've
do
thrown away lots of EpiPens, and I tell you what, it's the best money I've ever thrown in the garbage.
So that's the question. What do you, when you have a family, let's say she's got this reaction, she's in the ER, as a dietitian, how do you counsel a family that's starting this journey? What are the resources? Because, especially I don't have a food allergy, you probably don't have a food. So it's a whole new world when they get this diagnosis. What's the first step as, the medical profession gives to them?
The main thing, as you have expressed, is avoidance. You have to avoid. It has to be, it's not, like I mentioned, the intolerance where, lactose intolerance where you can drink a glass of milk and have a little upset stomach, maybe some diarrhea. You don't have those severe immune reactions. Where when you have an allergy, you have to avoid everything. You have to check the labels. You have to call companies. That's the big thing. If going out to eat, you have to make sure it's a trusted source. You can't go to a Bob Evans and say, oh, let's risk having their pancakes, because you don't know if that cook maybe put some peanut butter on something and didn't wash too well, and then they cross-contaminated.
And it's good that you mentioned Bob Evans, because you have had your own local Bob Evans. You did that. You went to the restaurant and said, this is the deal. It's life or death. And what did they explain to you?
Well, it was Kids Eat Free on Tuesday, and we love Kids Eat Free with 4 kids at home.
Right.
And they were giving away a free chocolate chip cookie to each one of the kids. And before the waitress brought it to the table, I kind of cut her off at the path and met her at the counter and said, okay, here's the deal. Here's what our issue is. I need to know how these are prepared. I need to know if they're made in same ovens with peanut products, because they have their whole bakery that has peanut butter brownies and peanut butter cookies and all that, and that's fine. The rest of the world is entitled to that. They can have that. I don't have a problem with that. I just need to know what's safe for my child and what's not. And she explained to me, and the manager also came over and explained even better how they have different pans that they're baked on that are never cross-contaminated. They have different colored plates that they sit on. The peanut butter stuff sits on one color plate, and regular non-peanut containing stuff sits on another plate. Even their spatulas that are used to serve the stuff off of those plates are color-coded by handles.
So kudos to Bob Evans, especially your Bob Evans, that really did that extra step.
Yes.
What do you think? There does seem to be an increased frequency of severe allergies to at least the 8 foods that we talked about. Is there research that shows why? Do we know what's going on?
Going through the literature, there's nothing that is pinpointing why. And the thing is, with allergies reacting with proteins are in almost every food. So it can be those 90% of items, but then there can be sesame seeds. There can be all various other items which you don't know that are on the rise. There's 160 that have been in the literature that
As recognizing
that
we're
are
seeing
recognized, and we're noticing throughout the world different cultures eating different items and having a rise in, say, more soy over where the...
Well, as food boundaries, as we become a more global society, we're crossing into, in a different country, they're eating the foods that we eat and vice versa, and so you're seeing those same allergies show up. Right. The good news, the one thing that, besides a hypervigilant mom like this who knows what's going on, the good news about some of the most severe allergies in terms of the statistics is by a certain age, some of them become less severe. Talk about what you're seeing.
We're looking at roughly, after the age of 3, 80 to 90% of children get rid of some of the allergies or can tolerate the foods. But for peanuts, that's not the case. Those are more for the dairy and egg allergic reactions. Yeah.
And when you talk about, we touched on it at the beginning, it's important to talk about now too, you need your child tested. Guessing what you think is going on is a bad choice, right? Yes. So what are the tests that they go through at the early stage? Here she was 13 months old. What do you do?
Typically, the first thing is when we have a reaction, you want to take if it is emergency, go right to the emergency room. But if you notice a minor reaction, a lesser degree, take a food log and register everything you ate, and the time and the symptoms, and then make an appointment with your physician and bring that list in and be as diligent with that list as you can be. I ate 4 peanut butter cookies. I ate a glass of milk.
Well, and it's why that when you have a newborn and they say you introduce this food for a week, and then you introduce this food. There's a reasoning behind that in terms of, certainly for allergies. I'm sure you knew when you started rice cereal and when you started fruit and when you started vegetables, and that's so you know. And I'm sure you've never had peanut butter.
And Delaney's my third child, so I was not I was not a spring chicken at this whole new mom thing.
All right, so we're just about out of time for this segment. The website, if people are interested in the service dogs when it comes to severe allergies,
our
the name
local
is it?
website is Delaney'sDoggy.org, but then we are also linked with AngelServiceDogs.com, which is where we got Bree, our service dog.
And you're with ProMedica, and that's the first way to talk to your doctor
Yep.
in the very beginning. And then this book, like I said, I'm going to give to you so you can read. Feeding Eden, I'm going to hold it up there, is a fantastic chronicle of how a family deals with a severe allergy in their family. When we come back, she is a fantastic allergy-free cook, and I've got a recipe given to me by an expert cookie baker. We're going to get in the kitchen and make some delicious but safe cookies.